Hi everybody, it's Jim from Sprague Woodturning. Welcome to this week's video and the 45,000 subscriber giveaway bowl. So this week we are actually going to use some walnut, some mussel shells, and some brass shavings to make a very unique inlay in this beautiful walnut bowl. So before we go much further into the video, I need to go over this again because people are being contacted by someone who is claiming to be me and it is not. I will never at any point ever ask you for shipping, money for shipping. If you win this bowl, I will ship it worldwide at my expense. I will contact you through YouTube on the comment that you made. This week, there's actually only 3 videos since we gave away the 40,000 subscriber giveaway bowl. Phil Anderson, I really like watching Phil's videos, and he laid it all out perfectly. And I could get away with doing that if there was only one video, but there isn't. So, I have to put the names through a comment picker and then put those names into a hat and then do a draw. So please, ladies and gentlemen, and if you do get contacted by this individual, please get a hold of me. My email is in the description, and I can at that point contact the authorities and give them that number, and hopefully we can catch these scammers. All right, so moving on with this week's project. As you seen earlier, I put a glue block on the bottom like I usually do. Since these are twice turned bowls, there's lots of thickness. So, for the most part, when I'm finished turning these twice turned bowls, I just pretty much eyeball it. I mean, they're if you leave your bowls 1 inch thick per 10 inches in diameter, you'll have lots of material there so that you don't have to be exact with the glue block. So I'm mainly just truing this up, stripping the anchor seal off of it because of course the anchor seal is what I always use when I'm drying my bowls. And just a variety of push cuts, pull cuts, shear cuts. So at this point it doesn't have to be exact. I do find that a lot of times when I do these bowls, you'll shape the outside and then move to the rim like I am here, and then go to the inside, and there's a little bit of tension in the wood. So it kind of goes a little out of round. So then I typically go back out and clean up the outside, and then everything is good to go from there. I can't speak for other turners, but I do find that that first initial cut is the hardest cut to do. Once you've got that down and the bulk of the material gone, and the bowl is kind of getting to its trued up state, then it's a lot easier to do the inside. So I didn't initially sharpen this gouge. I typically don't do that. I mean, the more you sharpen it, the shorter your gouge will get, and then you'll have to replace it. So, here when I entered the wood here, I was like, something doesn't feel right. There really shouldn't be a lot of resistance. And if you're getting resistance, then it's probably time to sharpen. So you'll see the difference in a really sharp gouge here. This is, bone dry black walnut that's not easy to cut cleanly, and you can see long ribbons. So this is really what you want after you've initially sharpened. All right, so like I said earlier, I typically go and clean the outside again because it will just go a little out of round, and you'll really notice it when you're sanding that it's an issue. So I typically just handle it with shear scraping, and that gives me a perfect surface for sanding. So this piece was sanded from 60 to 320. I think actually the inlay was done to 400. And this is the difference with having a sharp gouge and a clean cut surface. 3 passes and that's it. I'm ready to move on to the next grit. 60, 80, 120, 180, 240, 320, and then 400 for the inlay. So when it comes to cutting the groove for your inlay, make sure that you have a really sharp parting tool as well. Pretty much every time that I use the parting tool, I sharpen it. If you don't, there'll be a little bit of tear out around where the inlay is, and then you'll be able to see that in your final work. Well, all right, let's watch this wood come alive with this Waterlux. And again, this is the original VOC medium sheen. All right, that Waterlux does a fantastic job bringing that wood alive. Pretty dull before that. And of course, this will seal this up so that if we have a glue run or if we have a resin run from the inlay, it won't stain the end grain. So that's the main reason for putting a coat of finish on there. So anyway, we'll let this cure overnight and we will do the inlay tomorrow. All right, so it is the next day, and I figured I would cover this for the new people. This is mussel shells, and they are beach washed. Ordinarily, mussel shells have a dark outer casing on them, so if you can get them off the beach where the sand will wash away all that kind of gross outer layer of this, then it's way better. So anyway, it's very similar to the way the soapstone was done last week. So I'll just briefly cover it. Now, I keep the fine material separate from the large material. I put the large material in this. And this has a really complete different look with the fine material than with the larger mussel shells. So I find that the large mussel shells will give you more of a marble look, if you will, and the fine mussel shell is more like a Corian countertop look. All right, so here's this 4-inch plastic conduit again. All right, so as you can see, this stuff flies around a lot and it's sharp, so make sure that you wear safety glasses when you're doing this. You definitely wouldn't want to get any of this stuff embedded in your eye, that's for sure. So all I'm doing here is just sifting out all that fine material, and this is actually the material we're looking for. Unlike last week with the soapstone, we wanted the fine material. So once you get that done, I keep it separate, and if you're wondering why I keep it separate, I find that it makes the inlay look dirty if you combine these fine shell pieces with the larger ones. So I used to do that when I first started, and I've since stopped doing that because I just find it muddies the
muddies the look of the inlay. So anyway, that is a separate inlay, and you know, I think I covered it once. I'll have to have a look, and we'll have to see if I didn't, we'll do another one. Or if I haven't done it, we will do one, and I'll show you the difference between the two. All right, so there you go. There's our material. We're all ready to do our inlay. That's about the size of material you're looking for. All right, so when you put this, the shell material in here, and I would probably recommend this with all shell materials. Shell is very, very hard, and it's hard to sand back. So I always keep the shell material below the surface of the wood here. If it is above, you cannot use tools to take this off. You'll either chip it out of the inlay, or you're just going to take the edge. Even carbide tools. I've tried it. Trust me, no success. So you know, keep the inlay material below the surface here, and then you can sand it back to that, and then fill from there. It's much easier, and you'll save some money on sandpaper. There's a fancy vibrating device. Then I just pick any of the really large material off. Make sure that, you know, it's relatively uniform. If you've got a few pieces sticking above, that's not a real big deal. It's if the entire inlay is up, then, well, like I said, you're going to use a lot of sandpaper. There, it looks relatively good. Like I said, this shell material is quite sharp, so if you go in there and you're too aggressive trying to pull out any of the extra material to put it in the rim, there's a good chance you put a decent sized scratch in there, so be aware of that as well. Alright, we are going to use the Starbond Thin, and I am not going to use any accelerator on it. If you use the accelerator on it, you're going to get bubbles down inside of it, so you definitely don't want that. And like I said, I'll probably fill this up close to the very top, but probably not all the way. That way we can sand it easier. Alright, as you can see, the inlay is completely wet. That's what we want. The thin CA glue is probably the best choice for this. This is not going to go in the pressure pot. I don't really even know how the CA glue would react in there. So, you know, since this is nice and level, we'll just let this sit overnight, cure up, then we'll sand it back in the morning, and I'll show you what we're going to do with the brass. Alright, so before I sanded this back, I thought I would kind of show you what we're dealing with here. And, you know, we're going to want some of these voids left behind because that is where the brass is going to go.
So here I'm using 60 grit on a 6-inch random orbital sander, an air-powered one. And I initially leave the lathe off, sand down any of the high points if there's any, and then turn the lathe on and cut the inlay back until, you know, I've got the right amount of voids left behind. And that's really the way that I've been doing this for many years, and it's quite effective. You could sand it back a whole lot further if you want it, but I choose to stop there. And that's what it looks like.
Alright, so it's time to use our brass. I'm just going to go around and drop it and then level it off. This has been leveled. It may move. I may have to check it afterwards. But this should give us kind of a gold look, as you can see. I've cleaned up well so that I can recover any overspill. So let's see what this really looks like.
I should also mention that this real fine brass came from Jim D. Little care package that he put together and sent to me. So thanks again, Jim, for that. I really appreciate it.
All right, we're back again with the Starbond Thin. And probably what I will do is just flood this and keep flooding it till it looks wet all the time. Everything's nice and level now. And then let it sit for a little bit, and then I'll hit it with the accelerator. That way we can, hopefully get this inlay done and get it into its first coat finish today.
I think a lot of people have the impression that these instant glues or super glues, crazy glue, are instant, but when you lay them in quite heavily, like I did with the initial shell inlay, it can take quite some time for it to cure up.
There, I'll let that sit for 15 minutes or so. I'll keep coming back and checking it to see if there's any dry spots, and if there isn't, I'll hit it with the accelerator and we'll be able to move on with this. So I think we're good. So I'm going to set it with the accelerator. I'm spraying this from a long distance away. I do find if you use the accelerator up close, you will get a lot of foaming, which you certainly don't want to do. So spray it from distance, and then, as you can see, there's no bubbles at all.
Same process as before. Sand back all the high points, all the excess glue. If you don't do this, you'll be surprised at how long it will take to cut back. Well, there's a spot that wasn't cured, and this was, literally probably I would say probably an hour after I initially put the brass in. So I thought for sure that the glue would have been cured, but it wasn't. And so not a real big deal. It did spill out over a little bit, and that was one of the reasons why I put that coat of finish on. So here I'm pointing out that the brass is slightly dished, and you've got to keep sanding this back so that at least it's all one uniform color. And of course, that way it will give you kind of the bling look. That was kind of a dull look. And there you can see it's all one color, still lots of voids there. So those will have to be addressed as well.
All right, so you can see that there's a fair bit of brass on this side and not so much on this side. I don't know, it's just the way it worked out, I guess. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the fine brass and put it on this side, and then some of the smaller shell material, fill any of this stuff in. I might even use the fine, real fine mussel shell here on this side where it's brass heavy, and hopefully that will help to balance it out a little bit looks wise.
I will also say that this is the first time that I've ever really worked with this really super fine, almost powdered brass. Usually the brass that I get comes from people milling brass rods for whatever reason. So, it comes in a variety of sizes. I do try to get the finest stuff that I can, but this stuff is super fine.
All right, I'll let that sit for 15 minutes and then we'll sand it back, and no doubt we'll have to fill it again.
So the theme of this week's project should be sanding the inlay lots, because it just, again, with the soapstone inlay last week, this one here is one that will drive you crazy as well. Um, you'll see, like you're never going to be able to get all of the voids. So I do certainly fill in all of the really large ones, but if they're just small little, pin-sized holes, I typically will leave them because you'll just you'll never get them all. So after numerous fillings, we're finally able to move up in grits here. So initially what I will do is sand this piece to, maybe 180, 220, then you're still going to see yet more voids. And then I'll pull it off the lathe, do another inlay. There I'm pointing out some holes that need to be filled. And then I'll sand. I think I actually stopped at 180 here, and then did the filling, and then sanding it back again. And this is one of the inlays that people really like, especially the straight mussel shells. And I'll keep making them because my customers love them, and so do I.
All right, we are back with the Waterlux original VOC medium sheen. Well, all right. If you look closely at the inlay, I don't know if you're going to be able to pick it up or not. You are never going to get rid of all them bubbles. There's no chance. All those little voids. As soon as you fill it, you sand it back, you expose more. I've never tried CA glue in the pressure pot. Maybe we should try that. I don't know. It does take a bit of time for, look at that, eh? Man, that walnut's beautiful. It does take a bit of time for the CA glue to set up when it's heavily, like, when I initially put in with the mussel shells. Speaking of that, what are you thinking about that inlay? Again, this is an inlay that I've been doing for a number of years as well. I really like the contrast between the two of them. It's almost like, I don't know, like there's gold embedded in marble, almost. All right, well, we'll see you tomorrow for the second coat.
All right, finally on to buffing. This is the Triple E buffing compound from the Be All buffing system. Another substitute, you could use furrow steel wool. It's just a little more aggressive than, say, the buffing is. And I find with the furrow steel wool, you may tend to have to put another coat of finish on as well. It's up to you. I realize that not everybody has this buffing system. And of course, just a little bit of denatured alcohol to clean it for the next coat.
Well, good morning. It is the third coat of Waterlux. Yesterday, we kind of hit the reset button by doing the sanding that we did, so that's why I kind of said it was the first coat of finish, but technically it was the second, and this is now the third. That finish is still going to be embedded in the pores of the wood. Yeah, the surface finish would probably be gone, but down in the pores of the wood, the finish is still going to be there. Well, that should do it, I would think. Man, that walnut is just beautiful. The king of North American hardwoods. Even the birds like it. All right, we'll see you when I'm doing the bottom or the foot.
All right, so it's time to part this piece off of the waste block. I typically will leave about an inch or so of material there. That's enough to make sure that it's not going to go flying. But it is at times a little stressful. It depends on the size of the bowl. Just cleaning up the foot here. It was sanded to 320 as well on the very bottom. And that's a Richard Raffin spear point tool just to put a little bit of bling on the very bottom. And just some final hand sanding before we're going to put our first coat of finish on the very bottom. All right, let's see who the winner is of the 45,000 subscriber giveaway poll.
All right, so here are our three finalists. There have been 3 videos done since the last bowl giveaway. The random comment picker has kicked out each one of these names. So now we're going to fold these up and put them into our bowl. Pick a winner. Good luck. All right, there's our 3 names in the bowl. Shake them up a bit here. And the winner of the 45,000 subscriber giveaway bowl is Brantley Nolan. Congratulations. You are the winner of the 45,000 subscriber giveaway bowl. Thanks a lot for commenting. And if you're curious how he won, that's exactly it. I just asked people to comment on my videos and his name was drawn. So I really appreciate everybody commenting on my videos. That certainly helps me with beating the YouTube analytics and of course the thumbs up as well. Talking about our bowl, should do that. All right, so let's have a little last look at this bowl. It ended up being 9 inches across and 3 inches tall. Beautiful Canadian black walnut, the king of North American hardwoods as far as I'm concerned. There is the inlay. Again, it's so shiny. Realize that it's probably not picking it up. And like I said in the video, the mussel shell inlay and a lot of the shell inlays that I've done. And if you're curious, I've done oyster, quahog, and clamshell inlays along with this one and some periwinkle too. Anyway, they're all kind of on the scale of really hard to sand back, can't tool. So I mean, you really can't argue with the results. You're just going to spend a little bit of money in sandpaper sanding them back. So Brantley, if you can get a hold of me, spraguewoodturning@gmail.com. I will get this beautiful little bowl mailed out to you. And like I said, I will never ask you for the shipping. So please do not get roped into these dishonest people. All right? So never will ask you for money. All right, well, that's it. Let me know what you think about this week's project. Congratulations to Brantley for winning the bowl. And of course, please comment. I mean, that's how I can give away these bowls. By the time this airs, I'm probably going to be sitting at 46,000 subscribers. So that's awesome. Thank you so much. Never envisioned having that many subscribers. So thanks. And if you haven't subscribed, please do that, because that way I can give away more bowls. All right, well, that's it. Next week, we're going to be doing a double resin project. It's not going to plan. I'll just leave it at that. It's presented some challenges. So come on back for that next week. All right, well, that's it. Take care. Stay safe. Don't forget that bell. Congratulations, Brantley. We'll see you next week.